Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was delighted a few minutes ago when I heard a colleague of mine across the aisle say that it's time for us to have a fulsome debate. And unfortunately, a motion that was passed this morning does exactly the opposite. So we have a very limited time to discuss something that has a fundamental impact on Canadians as they look forward to their retirement. And when I look at this, the title of this bill, Pooled Retirement, Pooled Registered Pension Plan, I can't see too many elements in it that look like a pension. What I do see is maybe it's like the visa system that used to exist. We now have super visas. In many ways, maybe it's now like a super RRSP. Except I would argue that even with this, the RSPs, that you will go into this pooled idea, that once your money is in that pool, you lose the kind of control you have over investments of your own RSPs that you can actually manage through your banking institutions. So it's a further loss. And I feel that this government is being reckless, because in this bill, there is nothing that requires the employer to make any guaranteed contributions. It's optional. If it's optional for the employer as to whether they contribute or not, I don't actually see people running in a line, employers especially, as many of our small businesses are struggling, running to make contributions to a pension plan for their employees, not one that is voluntary. So I think that that is a major flaw in this legislation. Another major flaw in this is we seem to have turned a blind eye to what we have experienced over the last few years. You just have to look to the south of the border and hear the heart-rending stories of people who lost their pension plans totally as a result of the market having gone down. People who thought they were about to retire suddenly found they have to work for years longer, and even then, they're not going to make up that money. Here in Canada, those of us who held RSPs, and they were invested in mutual funds, also watched our savings disappear. And so this plan is only a defined contribution plan. And when your savings disappear because of the whims of the stock market, which, by the way, looking at what's happening in Europe and what's happening around the world, it's a very volatile situation. So if I was out there working hard right now and I had a limited income, is this where I would choose to put my money? Would I gamble with my hard-earned money by putting it into a pooled fund? And also, to the banks, it's an open checkbook. There is nothing in this legislation that says there will be a cap set on the management fees or a management of the funds. So really, this is a lose-lose for the person who puts money in here, and I would say they would be worse off than if they were just putting it into RSPs on their own. That is for those people who could afford to put money aside. But I come from the riding of Newton North Delta, and I've had the privilege over the last month to meet hundreds and hundreds of my constituents. And this is what most of them are telling me. They're telling me that they have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. They are telling me that they don't have a pensions plan, many of them. But they're also telling me they don't have the money to put into RSPs. So really, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives released a study that there's over $500 billion worth of RRSP contributions that were not utilized by Canadians. $500 billion. All of these people who could have had these great tax breaks didn't make use of it. I would argue that some of them were scared because they saw what happened to the market and they saw what they had in the RSPs going down, but that the vast majority of them do not have the wherewithal to put money into this pooled fund.